There. So just a quick check on file size. Oh, look at that. Flawless. Oh, there might be, maybe this is video reference. I'm not sure. Donghi, those might be your video reference files. Oh, it depends. If that's your reference, then I don't care what the resolution is. That's fine. But if it's your actual submission, then you got to change the aspect ratio. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. 1280 by 720. Okay. Bravo, everyone. Let's go by name. There we go. Okay. Here we are. Okay. So given the time we have, I may not be able to hit everybody's with specific notes, but that's okay. I've seen this several times. Okay, so that was, okay. Jenny. So one thing I see is you have rotation on the chest. I can see that tilting, but the hip has a little click in it. You see it goes click, click. So make sure the hip is rotating side to side. Take the feet and move the feet a little bit under the body. So the leg, instead of coming straight down, the leg goes here. Okay?
Okay.
The arms are a little bit stiff. So if we look at the side view, right? You're also having some issues with the leg being very straight. Right? It locks, so the knee locks right there. So when that happens, lift the heel up a little sooner. Lift the heel up to get the room, because otherwise what happens is you get a pose like this where it's incredibly twisted and then you get this big pop, right? Because all of a sudden, finally there's enough room. The way the foot's lifting off the ground there could use some work, okay? And it feels like there's an inconsistent ground plane. It feels like this is a bit higher than this. So watch the ground plane, that might be influencing that. The back is also very straight. Right, so a little bit of a lean slightly in there. I'm glad you put some overlap on the head, but you could twist the neck forward just a little bit to make the pose a little bit more, like the spine is a little more curved, okay? And arms are very mechanical. So some stuff you can definitely loosen up, okay?
Yeah.
Donghi. Looking great. Nice job. Now we have to go redo the Star Wars prequels with that walk cycle. What do you think?
That's great.
Yeah, sound like a good idea? Yeah, maybe we can do that next term. All the Jedi were like, what the hell are these? Right. A lot of fun to be had there. Yeah, no notes, that's cool. Cool, nice work. Yeah, that's moving really well. Double check the foot. It feels like there's a couple places where the foot slows down. So just make sure it's a straight line. So right over here, I see the foot kind of, if you look at the distance it's traveling, oh yeah, yellow would be a better color there. Look at that distance from here to here, right? And you can see from here to here, it's much bigger. And then when you get to here, it just slows right down. Okay, so just make sure it's linear going on forward to back. But other than that, looking great. Nice work.
Thank you.
Okay, Jessica. That's such a glidey, slow walk. That's a challenging one to make it feel like it's got weight. Let's look at the side view. Yeah, I think the hard part is making this feel like it's connected to the ground, right? Because in the reference, you can see that the speed of the hip is not constant. If you look at where the hip goes through space, it will go faster and slower. So what I would recommend is don't have the character stay in one place, but actually have them move across. So follow your reference, right? So you could literally just grab the character, move them over and follow the reference, right? And get that speed there, okay? Jessica, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you could probably compress the low point a little bit more. If you look at how much compression happens on the leg, I think you could get a bit more. It feels like if you look at how much change there is in the hip. Look at that point and then look at the low point, right? There's a big distance, but when we look at your hip here, it feels much less. So it feels a lot more weightless. So I would push the hip down more a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
And there's a bit of a click. Maybe that's just not the right looping place, yeah. When you get to here, also pay attention to how much twist there is. So you can see the back, right? So you really get a sense of twist happening, right? So like that is the back of the character. And here you can see you can get a little bit more. You could easily push this back a little bit more, twist the back towards us, and move the arm a little bit more forward. Okay? Yep. Okay. G1. Seems to be a bit of a click. There's a big click right there. So watch what's happening here. Something is clicking. So the head is over here and then just pops. So that's a really abrupt change. Okay? So I'm not sure if something didn't get mirrored. The feet are sliding around, so try and keep them locked to the ground as much as possible so they move in a consistent direction. Where are we? G1, where'd you go? Side view. Yeah, you're getting the tempo right. That's good. I think you could probably lean the spine more forward. So you could probably curve the character. If you look at that, you can easily push this more forward. If you look at where the chin is, drop it straight down, you could easily push the whole upper trunk of the body more this way, right? So the head would be right over top of that. Okay?
Okay.
Does that make sense? And again, it's that big pop. There's something missing right here. This frame is popping. There's a big gap. Maybe something is in step mode and you're missing a couple in-betweens there. Okay?
Okay.
But the tempo on the hip is looking pretty good. Clunk, 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 clunk. That's great. So I think now you just got to work everything through and smooth it out.
Thank you.
Julieta. Nice. So what I would try to do here is when I look at the reference, if you look at sort of the pace of how the shoulders are moving, this character feels a bit faster. Did you speed it up at all, Julieta?
Yeah, I changed a little bit the frame rate.
Okay.
One step was faster than
Okay, that might be why. But you get the impression that the shoulders are a little bit slower than what I see in the animation, right? So it's tick, tock, tick, tock. The other thing that might be happening is when you look at where your arm goes, right, on the character versus what you see in the reference, right? It stays pretty much, if you look at that hole in the background, look where the wrist is, it stays almost inside the silhouette of that quite consistently. But this swings out to the side and actually crosses in front a little more. So you could try to avoid, and that could be because of the chest. It might be the chest is moving the arm farther when you rotate it. So you could see if maybe you back off how much rotation there is in probably rotate Y. So it's like twisting the chest around in this axis. That might help.
Okay.
Okay. Another little thing I would do is just tilt the feet out to the side. So even here, so it's not quite a front view, but a 3/4 view, just to get a little bit of an angle, right? Just like you see, right? With our feet just pointing out to the side slightly. That's looking good. Yeah, nice and happy. Yeah. You could probably loosen up the elbow a little bit. It feels a little straight. I know the reference you can see, but you definitely feel the flexing. So you really feel, right, how the elbow bends, right, quite significantly during the return swing right there, and then lock straight. So you can keep the arm straighter on the way back and then try to bend a little bit as it reaches the forward position and then slides back. That's where you see the biggest change, okay? Another thing that would help is right now the fingers are all outstretched, so it feels like they're very tense. So if you just curled them into a more natural pose like we have in your reference, that would also just make the silhouette a little cleaner. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Nice work. Matt. That's a very sneaky bucket. Very nice. Okay, so I think in terms of the posing, one thing that feels a bit weird is like this hand is straight here. Is this IK? Because if it is, I would recommend FK. Just so it doesn't feel like it's literally parallel and it feels like it's moving in a straight line.
I think it's IK.
Yeah, that creates problems because what will happen is the body will pick up speed and it'll catch up to there, and it won't feel like the arms are connected to the shoulder. It'll feel like they're sort of more at the wrist, right? So it feels like the elbows to the shoulders are very loose. So that'll help with that. The pattern of going up and down feels a little bit weightless. So I would try to get a little bit more variety. You're pushing the character very low to the ground, and that's tough when you have big, broad feet like that, right? It just makes it really tough to get the posing correct. So I would probably keep the feet, the hips up a little bit higher. Also with the push off, make sure you anchor the foot and keep it there until the last moment. So you tilt up at that point. So it doesn't feel like it all comes off the ground at the same angle, the same time. It should be that we're pulling right off of the toe, right? And then coming off, right? So you sort of peel off. And if you can look here, you can see there's the angle of the foot. And then there's a pose where it's just on the toe. So get that toe pivot to help you out. I think you could probably lift the hips up a little bit more. Okay.
Yep.
And then the up and down is a bit even. So I would try to see, looking at the reference, it feels like the biggest change is going down. So I would really want to emphasize going down much more than going up, right? So that should be the stronger of the two movements. And pay attention to the spine. I can see in your draw overs, right? You can see the curve. The character feels completely straight. So lean the character forward, get that nice C shape in the spine, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Matt, Nadia. So the feet are sliding a little bit. Let's look at the side view. Yeah, I think that's the back leg position. So what happens is the thigh, you see the thigh here, right? The one behind us, it reaches kind of an angle like this, and then it actually goes forward. So I think what you need to do is keep moving this foot back a little more. So what we should see is the thigh should move back. You could drop the heel a little bit. So it's mostly maybe the ball of the foot doesn't lift up the heel that far. That'll help because I think it's the stride, right? With your stride position, both legs, the upper legs are both angling forward, and we should see something like this. So one leg is back and one leg is forward. Okay, that's creating that issue for you with the stride length feeling a bit odd. Okay, there's also an asymmetry with the hip. If you look at the hip, one of the up and downs is different than the other. So there's one low point that's quite noticeably lower. So we have this one, and then the other low point right here, the hip stays the same. It doesn't go down as far. So watch out for some of those inconsistencies there because it feels like the character's limping. It feels like one stride is hurt, right? So it doesn't give us the same impression. Okay? Also pay attention to the shoulder socket. I can see in some positions it does rotate back, but we should also see it rotate forward. So we should be able to see sort of like a pendulum twisting from one side, twisting to the other side consistently. It feels like it's only in half the cycle. So I'm wondering if maybe it was mirroring the cycle that was causing some trouble. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Nicholas. Nice. Great job. Very nice. Again, it's just a foot space. You can see the feet, they move much quicker in this zone, but at the front, they're kind of easing out. So again, remember, as soon as you hit the ground, even spacing all the way to the back. So it should be completely evenly spaced. So straight line, grab that point front to back in the graph editor, straight line, okay? Just help the consistency there. But upper body, everything's moving pretty nicely. I think everything's moving really smoothly. What I would look at is to see if there's any way you could add a little bit more push. So if you do have things that are kind of moving in a pendulum way, sometimes in the middle it feels a bit even. So you might sort of push through the middle a little bit harder. So what can often happen is you have a point like this and it does like an S curve to here. And it's this part that can sometimes get a little even. So what we try and do is you kind of, it's like a guitar, I try and tune it a little bit. If I have a straight line, it's too mechanical. There's no acceleration, speeding up or slowing down. But if I have this part makes it feel too much like this. If I do step mode, it's just going to pop. So it's just trying to find a way to, okay, maybe I'll favor here and then I'll really push through like this. So it's like you're trying to get close to step mode, right? And avoid that straight line. Okay? So that's the real trick, is trying to dial that in a way just to make it still feel interesting. But it's moving very well. I think I would just try and see if you can get a little bit more texture here and I get a bit more weight. Does that make sense, Nicholas?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Nice work.
I gotta import my image or my video on top of this. I didn't get a chance to do that. I can do that right now if you want.
Oh, okay. Well, let's have a look and see if there's anything I can catch here while you're getting that ready. One thing to look at is you see how the foot is twisting on the ball of the foot. Watch out for that because it feels like it's sliding. So what I would do is just keep the foot at a consistent angle. It's probably the rotate Y here. So if it's the rotate Y, just make sure that that is just one straight line in the graph. It is a consistent angle for the foot.
Okay.
I think you could definitely play around with the up and down a little bit. It feels a bit weightless. So I would try to really emphasize the down a little bit more just to get a sense of plop, 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 plop. And then what I would also do is a little bit of offsetting. So right now the hip and the head have the same timing. They hit their extremes the same time. If you were to delay the head a little bit, then it would feel a little more organic. Just like grab the head rotation, especially like in this direction, whatever that is, the rotate Z, and just delay it 3 frames from the hip and just see what you get. You might get a little bit of kind of a little bit more interesting movement.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the side. Here, when you get to the contact point, both feet on the ground, and then the low point, both feet on the ground, but that should be a consistent distance. So this foot would be back here, and that'll keep the thigh moving back, right? So what happens here is you can see that it feels like somebody pushes the knee. So it feels like there's not as much weight being supported back there. So try to keep the legs straight, keep the foot moving back, and then have it lift up and come forward. Okay?
Okay. So on the
Right over
down-
here, it also feels like at this front position that the ankle kind of stops. So try to keep it moving and then drop down. So you could even, and in these poses, I would actually lift the leg out even higher, right? Lift the foot up and then bring it back down in for the landing and then hit here, right? So you get your contact that way, and that'll give it a little bit more life. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Roger. Nice. So you put a lot more stomp in the legs. So when I look at the legs, it's a lot stronger, but I think that's kind of fun. It gives it some personality. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah, so it does change the tone a little bit. So was there a reason why you made that choice? I just want to hear what your reasons were.
The stomp.
Yeah.
I kind of just I was like adjusting the hip positions a lot because I kind of realized that the legs weren't going like straight enough. So,
okay.
so that's just like a byproduct of that.
Okay. I think what I would try to do, like sometimes you can get away with the foot stomping on a flat line like that, but I would try, if you want, you could just delay the toe a little bit. So it's boom, boom, right? So the next step. So it just adds a little bit of a, right, 2 contact points. It might just feel a little bit more organic than everything just sort of landing completely flat. Okay?
Okay.
But everything else is moving pretty nicely. Yeah. Nice work.
Thank you.
Sarah. I saw someone walking around here like that this morning. Kind of scared me. There we go. Front, side. Nice. So it's a bit of a slower pace. So I think the tricky part with the slower pace is getting the weight, that feeling of weight.
Mhm.
So I think always go to the same place, go to gravity, right? So it's really hard to slow yourself down. So I would, if you look at the change, right, relative to your height, how much change that is, and then look at the rig and see how much change that is, it feels like that's underrepresented. It feels like that's not moving down as much as it could. And then when you go up, I really like this big this is where you really slow down, right? So you get really long legs, right? Almost straight. I think with a character like this, because they've got the big canoe feet, I would try to get rid of the bend on the leg. I would try to lift the hip a little bit more, because what I see in your reference is you're just cresting through to that high point, just so high up and then coming down. So I would really try and play with that. It's just like watching basketball players when they do the slow motion dunk, where it just feels like they're just hanging there forever and then drop. So I would push the character up even more, just as far as you can. Okay?
Yep.
Yeah, that would help. Where are we? Oh, how come? This is Sarah. Was that the side view, front view? Side view seems more contained. So I think the front view, I'm worried that you might be twisting. I know this character isn't rigged that well through the midsection. So what I might try to do is, instead of turning so much with the chest, you may have to go a little bit lower and put that rotation in somewhere else, just so it doesn't tear and twist so much. Okay.
Okay.
It just feels like it's coming apart a little bit too far there, right? Like it feels like, yeah, it's just way too much on the chest and not enough on the hip. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. How are we doing for time, Flora? We got one more minute. Almost done. Okay. Sarah, Sasha. Oh, that's the saddest little droid I've ever seen in my days. That's really cool.
Be lazy.
Oh, after a hard day battling Jedi, this droid comes home. You're like, yeah, you lost again. Bloody nerds with their stupid light sticks. So the only thing I see here with the feet is when you hit this position, it kind of goes forward a bit and then back. So it feels like if this is the contact position, the spacing in there seems just a little bit off. It feels just something, there's a little floaty. Like it feels like the foot picks up speed. So watch it should be even spacing. As soon as you hit the ground to the back, make sure that's even.
It might be the auto stretch. I forgot to turn it
Oh, yeah, turn that
when I
off.
started any meeting. So like, do I just turn it off completely on everything?
I would get rid of it and then see what breaks. And then if you need to engage it just to get the leg to bend a little, then just nudge it just as much as you need. But yeah, watch out for that. The other thing is be consistent with the foot moving back. So you see this foot moves back, so should this one. Right? So that would continue. And that means that this knee should keep moving back. If that breaks too soon, it feels like there's no weight anymore.
Okay.
Okay, and then bring it forward. But yeah, nice. When you look here, one of the little bumps on the head feels a little bit snappier than the other one. So it's like clunk, clunk, and it seems to be when the cycle is repeating. So it seems when we go from 43 to 1, there's something in here that's different on one step than the other. It could be that 43 and 1 are the same. So when you play blast, you should chop off 43 and just do 1 to 42. So just double check. There's something in there that makes this feel a little asymmetric. Okay, very minor, easy fix. Sion. Nice. I think with this rig, I think you're moving the hip too far side to side. I think you have the right idea, but I think what happens is as you get to the passing position, this feels like there's not enough balance. So what I would do is favor the leg that's on the ground and then move over only once you have contact. So if you look at your reference, you can see that when you're on the left side of screen, the hip is going to favor that left side right into the last minute. So even as this foot is planted, the foot is still favoring this leg a little bit more so until you transfer the weight, right, a few frames later. So what's happening here is the hip is kind of getting over to that side that's not supported too early, and it feels very off balance. Okay?
Okay.
So what I would do is if the curves are cycling, right, so they're just sort of cycling forever, what you might be able to do is just grab that curve and slide it around until it just connects just right, so that this point you don't reach until after the foot has landed solidly. So if you think about you're at the maximum here, and that's like at 35, right, which is the same as 1, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Maybe you need to slide everything 7 frames over, and then it'll click into place perfectly. Okay?
Okay.
Let's have a look at the side view. Yeah, similar issues. Watch out for the feet. They sort of stick here and they stay. So remember, as soon as the foot hits the ground, right, if that's your contact pose, divide everything up in the graph editor, front position, back position, straight line. So all the spacing is dead even. Otherwise, this foot freezes, it holds here, this one freezes, and then they're both supposed to move, but they kind of jump, right? And then this one doesn't move at all. So watch the spacing on the ground there, okay?
Okay.
There's a slight little shift on the body. You can see it kind of goes, and it might be just over the loop right here. You see the 35 and 1, there's a slight different position in the body. So just make sure you're not moving it forward and backward too much there. Make sure it hooks up, all right?
All right.
You could definitely put a little bit more overlap on the spine. It feels very rigid in terms of like the side view. So it feels like it's the same shape. So I would try to get a little bit of flexing on the chest and the neck and maybe the head, okay?
Okay.
All right, that's
Thank you.
it. You're welcome.
You haven't checked mine. Mine's still in the folder. Yeah, you need to refresh.
Okay.
Should be the last one.
Okay. Why did you wait so late?
Sorry.
Yeah, because it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Today I was just going to give notes. Don't worry. You can just get it in the can, and then we can have a look. So here, it's very, very perpendicular to the horizontal, right? Or sorry, the vertical. So the hip, right? It doesn't feel balanced. So when you go up on one leg, your hip is going to go over that side. So right now there's too much mass is unsupported. So one way to fix that is to move the feet under the body a little bit more. So that when you get to this point, if that foot is here and you move the hip over just a little bit, it's going to feel more supported. It's going to feel more balanced. Okay. Right now it's just very one-dimensional, just moving up and down. So it should be a little bit of side to side and move the feet under. Okay. And then when we look at the side view, missing some good contact with the ground. Watch out here. It feels like something is lifting the leg up and the leg is stretching. So remember, as soon as you hit the ground, everything moves back at the same speed. So if this is moving back that far, that should move back that far as well. Try to avoid locking the knee. When the knee locks like that, it's going to pop a lot. So it'll just jump forward. So at this point, the thigh should still be going back and you lift up onto the heel. Then as you bring it forward, the leg is very straight. So I would try to just keep this a little bit more bent like that as you bring it forward, just to have more contrast. Okay, and then here, something is going on with the stretch control. You can see the knee, right? The thigh is getting longer. So something is stretching this part of the leg. So if there's a stretch control being used, I would turn that off. It seems like it's doing too much to the character and has like inconsistent leg growth, right? So right over here, changes shape as well. Okay? Yeah. And I don't know what's going on with the fingers, but the joints are poking out.
Yeah,
Turn those off.
Here for no reason.
Yeah,
I
as
don't
long as you
know
can
why.
pose the fingers, that's fine. But yeah, just turn off the joints so it doesn't distract. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna have to wrap up class now. We'll hit the stop button. There we go.